So you're dressed for the occasion, Dan, with a walk up Cardinal Valley on the outskirts of Church Stretton in the Shropshire area of outstanding natural beauty.
Well, I am indeed dressed for the occasion, despite the tinge of irony in your opening verbal gambit there. I'm dressed for the occasion of the first film we've made since you bequeathed me these three splendid ties that used to be owned by your late father, David Samuel Harris, spectacularly dapper black country tattooed Ted that he was. So it is in tribute to him that I wear them.
Thanks, old boy.
Not at all. I would dream of doing nothing less. And I think that dapper exactly suits the man, and I would like to think it suited me as well, because it's such a great adjective. The semantic and lexical space between the pedestrian term smart and the altogether fuller and more fulsome, I know that sounds rubbish, but think about it and it's not, the more fulsome term dapper. And where better to be dapper than this most dapper of landscapes, perched atop the sun-soaked tactile warmth of this huge recumbent monolith. Up and at it, Harris, up and at it. So what would he have made of it here, Harris, in Little Switzerland, as it became known in the late Victorian era? Would it be his kind of thing?
No, not really. He wasn't really a traveller or a wanderer or a...
No,
yeah,
there's no
yeah.
opposite term for wanderlust, is
no.
there? I suppose we should know if there is one, but I can't think one. One doesn't come to mind.
No.
My father is also afflicted.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he's still with us, but he is also afflicted with that same enormous lack of wanderlust. I don't know whether that's the generation he was born in.
Yeah, it's very much, I don't know, very much a type of person likes to stick to what they know. Your dad, of course, creatively is an explorer, isn't he? I assume you would say that.
Yeah, and I think probably that's how he would see it, microcosmically. He goes off on journeys in his garage with his soldering iron and his glass cutter and his box of watercolours, which is exactly, a massively laudable thing. And I suppose I have a little bit of that. We've talked about this before, this relationship between your larger wanderlust and my more localised version of it, my macro and micro relationship there. And I suppose our fathers are similar.
Yeah, one thing's certain for sure, my wanderlust did not come from Big Dave, my dad. It didn't come from there.
Well, let's hope that he would have enjoyed it here nonetheless.
I think he'd have enjoyed it if someone had driven him here and then he didn't have to do too much. Yes, I think that he would have enjoyed that.
I'm beginning to get on board with him there. Maybe that's my encroaching end of my 50s.
Yeah.
Apologies for the fluffy vagueness of the introduction of this idea, but a few years ago I remember my brother asking me if we'd filmed in Church Stretton and saying that a colleague of his said that some strange things went on there. Now, this has only just reoccurred to me. He's at work at the moment, I can't phone him and check. So before this film goes out and is made, we're never going to find out what those strange things are, unless, of course, we happen upon them. But what does that evoke to you? If I say that there are some strange things going on in this town. What kind of strange things occur in your mind?
There's all sorts, isn't there, that it could be, you know, evocative of, you know, secretive pagan societies.
Yeah, like the Wicker Man.
Yeah, like the Wicker Man.
Human sacrifice.
Yes. You know, alchemy experiments.
Yeah, like the Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
Hidden labyrinths of caves.
Yeah. You know, Nazis hiding out after the war,
Right.
doing
Okay.
Mengele-style experiments.
Blimey. Yeah, perhaps like Frankenstein-style experiments, reanimation of dead tissue, or maybe sort of Chernobyl-style mutations.
Yeah.
Like Cornelia Hess-Honegger's drawings of mutated insects.
Yeah, it's all been happening around here. There could have been meetings of the Bilderberger group.
Bilderberger.
Yeah, the Bilderberger group. That's sort of secretive cabal that's supposed to run the world, isn't it? Very sort of American conspiracy idea.
It's not like Build-A-Bear Workshop then in the Merry Hill Centre.
No.
Huh?
Unless.
Unless. Lawrence's, the church that gives its name to this particular Stretton, as opposed to Little or All, replete with spectacularly lovely churchyard, Jacobean carvings within, a brass plaque to Hesba Stretton, and of course this little Sheila gig above the disused Norman doorway, to put the traveller in mind of Polly Harvey and Piper Laurie. The passing of my father, and my mother for that matter, when it happens, I imagine will strip away one of those protective layers between me and the great swirling blackness of everything, you know, the inverted pyramid of consciousness fragmenting, the great invention falling apart. And I've recently felt a little intimation of that, a whisper of it over my shoulder. A friend of mine sent me something on Airbnb. For a few moments I didn't know what it was. Why are you sending me this, I thought, and then I suddenly realised with a little thrill of horror that it was my childhood home on Airbnb, transformed, transfigured to the extent that I couldn't even understand which room was which. And slowly, gradually, I began to think that's the landing, that used to be the kitchen, that was where the downstairs toilet was, that's my bedroom. And it untethered me just one iota, 1 degree more from everything, because I accept that my past, my childhood is finished, but it was finished and also lived in a little lit box in my mind. Well, that box has been painted over now, just like the room, with a new version of it. And for a moment, I felt that giddying sense of release that I suppose you must have felt when your father died. And I wonder whether that's the appeal of these places, these picturesque places, not just the visceral thrill of the pretty, but also the sense that the houses that peep from the hillside, the human development, it's incidental, it's transitory, it's nothing, and it'll be gone long, long before the huge muscular swell of the hillside behind it. Down the road a stretch, the touristic clatter, the racketipple, as Chuck Berry described, those 700 little records all rocking rhythm and jazz, the racketipple of voices and vehicles fades and is absorbed by the surrounding hillside. The world seems older here, even more impervious to humanity, even here in this, what is, I suppose, the busiest thoroughfare. The little cascade of shades that is Bishop's Castle, from the house on stilts down to the solidity of the church at the bottom of the high street. Quietness and wisdom and age pervades.
It is overlooked by the Cambrian mountains, actually, isn't it? Which
is it?
Has that word itself, Cambrian, has an agedness about it, I think.
Yeah, I wonder whether, as I say, wisdom seems to spring from nowhere in my mental well, but there seems to be something in this area that precludes technology, and I don't mean any kind of Luddite machine smashing way, just in an understanding of the equilibrium. I'm getting very hippy-dippy for me here, I need to maybe put the reins on this. But
it's like when Don Draper goes and does yoga at the end of Mad Men.
Yeah, but of course he's only doing it in order to have material for his Coca-Cola advert, isn't it? So maybe we ought to stop that there. But the fact that it's even making a punk rock soul like Dan Cummings come alive with Arthurian legend is testimony to the power of the place, I think. It is also, in that pub there, the first place where I was put on YouTube, long before the halcyon days of Cummings Your Way that you're still swimming in. I was dancing for quite a protracted period of time with a friend of mine during a afternoon drinking debacle, and my friend filmed it and put it on YouTube. I'm not telling you how to find it, though. No sirree. Template of reciprocity of a sort, I suppose. Not quite Cummings' law of progressive photographic disappointment, but a litmus test for pretty places, I think. The fact that simply turning 360 degrees opens up another equally pleasing vista. And just a few feet to the right, and there you go again. The same but different, and just as nice. The church, nestling, squat, and dare I say it, Welsh-looking into the hillside. The bunting fluttering silently, and that whole satisfying sense of closedness. It's a place, isn't it? Quite a place. It's like Portmeirion without the Patrick McGowan Alton Towers-ness. You can imagine waking up here and not knowing where you were if you'd never been here. I also like a place which is better than I remember it. which exceeds even the expectations that I created myself. It provides a great full stop to the town, this church, sitting at the bottom of the high street, unintentional of course. And yeah, we could argue back and forth about the colours that adorn the bottom of that high street, the bright orange, the teal, the cornflower blue, and perhaps about the seaside aquamarine that adorns some of the buildings in this most landlocked of places further up the street. Do they clash with the lichen on the gravestones, the church tower, the ancient yews that throng them, and with the gentle architectural tumble of the twisting townscape that climbs the hill? But it's a singular place, this. You're not in Kansas anymore, nor are you in the West Midlands for that matter. And if you are in England, well, I could be wrong, but I sense that if the county boundaries began to creep in the night and claimed it for Wales, no one would be too fussed either way. And if you're after cumulative accretions of quietude, where better to end your journey than here, on top of Clun Castle, where the babble of the water and the bark of the dog are louder than the distant roar of the traffic. Not the heart of darkness, perhaps a heart of silence though, if you're conjuring with abstract nouns. In a different age, when your first glimpse of a place was not via the internet, it was via a postcard, perhaps television, more likely a book though. I remember thumbing through an English travel book and coming upon pretty much the view behind you and thinking, I wonder where that is. And underneath was that much used phrase from Houseman's A Shropshire Lad: Clunton and Clunford, Clungumbury and Clun are the quietest places under the sun. Now, again, I've heard that perhaps, those can be substituted for drunkenness places or most lawless places, etc. But quietest is what it usually gets, and quietest is what it is today. You can feel the quiet seeping in and around the surrounding area. A tiny place, the population smaller than most villages. The tiny streets, the ruined castle, the 14th century pack horse bridge. A local phrase says that he who goes over Clun Bridge comes back sharper than he went over in the first place. I don't know what that means. I don't know whether it means sharper dressed. I assume it means sharper intellectually. We'll give it a go later, see what happens. It's a place I don't think many people penetrate to, and all the better for it. Blimey. I said that the church in Bishop's Castle looked Welsh. That one over there makes it look like Nigel Farage's St George's flag mug. That's surprisingly difficult to say, actually. I did a scheme on tongue twisters recently at school, and I might, Betty Butter bought some butter, but she said this butter's bitter. I think I might create a scheme around Nigel Farage's, what was it?
St George's flag mug.
Yeah, Nigel Farage's St George's flag mug. Yeah, year 6, love that.
I think you get a lot of Farage's tongue twisters with the letter F. It's very tempting, perhaps not a school scheme of work.
Perhaps not. Well, good to get that pointed out. What did I say about the barking of a dog? So we're back at the Packhorse Bridge. Lovely stone concertinaed folds. Memories of Ashford in the water. Bakewell. When I first came here, I think it was February, when the light is draining into the sky with the promise of all this somewhere thereabouts. I remember thinking, this is a summer place, a place for leaf-dappled shadows and summer muted noises and light glittering through leaves. And it is, I was right. Places like this in the winter, they exist. They're like spaceships with cryogenically frozen caskets waiting to be activated upon landing. And now here it is. At exactly the right point. We've been robbed a little bit of midsummer, and so this early summer is standing nicely in its stead for me. We were going to do a couple of skits when we got down here. Remember that idea of going over the bridge, coming back sharper than you went over? And maybe I could have come over and my normally incoherent ramblings could have become completely incoherent, or maybe I could have come over with my tie and shirt dishevelled and my collar all thereabouts. But now that I've got down here and heard the music of that trilling water and felt the atmosphere of the place, I feel more pensive. I don't feel in the mood for that sort of thing. It's siphoned all the flippancy out of my soul. So I think we'll end where we began, accompanied, of course, by that dog. So back to your old fella, Harris. Would he have enjoyed a day out in the Shropshire area of outstanding natural beauty?
I don't think he'd have enjoyed all the walking.
No.
So, in short, no. And he'd have missed Emmerdale Farm.
Fair enough.